Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of DFS MMA for Beginners. And in this episode, we will be going over actual lineup construction of this upcoming slate, UFC 283, the Jamal Hill and Glover Teixeira fight. Also, the Moreno and Figueiredo fight, which is the one I'm looking forward to more. So, first things first, taking a look at the big picture of what's going on here. If you look at the numbers, a lot of things to point out here. This is a card unlike no other card, and I genuinely mean that. I know every card is unique, but this one's super unique. I believe it's because it's back in Brazil since COVID hit, and so we are back in international waters, back in Brazil, back to normal. Thank God. Okay, so first thing is the win percentage. We have a cheese load of favorites, heavy favorites. Starting off with Almeida at a 91% favorite. He does come with a hefty price tag at 9,700. So we do have a lot of favorites, but they're really expensive. There's no discount on these favorites. So aside from seeing all these heavy favorites, we see a lot of heavy inside the distance odds. All fights are percentage-wise, and of course, anything can happen, but percentage-wise, they're all supposed to end inside the distance except two fights, which would be the Stamen fight and the Moreno fight. Those two fights are the only fights in the whole damn card that are going to actually go the distance according to the numbers. Again, anything can happen, but these are according to the numbers. I feel like I have to do this every time I say according to the numbers. So yeah, what that means is high volatility, high scoring card. So we're gonna see a lot of fighters going over 100 points, and what that means to us as DFS players is we're gonna have to pretty much use all our salary. We're going to have to use all our salary to win this, because we're going to really, truly have to get high scores, which we're going to have to pay up. So this leads us to what fighters are going to look like they're going to score high. A lot of them look like they're going to score highly. Their ceilings look like they're there, the potential for them to hit their ceilings. This looks like a super exciting fight card that's going to unfold. I think they did this on purpose to give the Brazilian fans a show and us a show for those that are going to be watching it on TV. Three fighters separate themselves from the rest of the crowd of these freaking high ceiling potentials, which will be Almeida, Nunes, and Rodriguez. They're inside their distance percentage is at 85, 64, and 64. Those are the highest, and they pretty much separate themselves. Johnny Walker's also up there at 60, but his win percentage takes a hit. Rodriguez is the lower of those top three, and he's at 76, and Johnny Walker's at 66. So I wouldn't put him in those categories. So with that said, you cannot put these three in the same lineup. We can try, but we really have to dig down here, which I do not want to go dumpster diving in this particular card. Usually I don't mind too much going dumpster diving, but in this particular card, turning into a English man, that's not even... I don't want to go I lose my track when I get into other things, so I'm not going to even entertain that English accent. First of all, because I can't do it on camera, because I'm a little nervous doing things on camera. I still have to get used to this. This is another sidetracking. I already forgot what I was going to say. But the dumpster diving. This particular card, not a good idea to go dumpster diving. I don't think so. Because there's not really good numbers down there. There's never good numbers down there, but in this particular card, horrible numbers. That's why it's red. It's even hard to look at. Originally, I had it a different shade of red, but I'm like, screw it. I'm going to keep it back at that red, because it's even hard to look at it, because I don't want to look at that. That's what I'm staying away from. I already X'd it out. So we have to pick two out of these three. 2 out of these 3 are gonna be our locks. This strategy I'm about to explain right now is utilizing late swap. That's mostly what I'm playing since it's available. I do want to use it and keep that edge of late swap. So this lineup construction is going to be utilizing late swap. That's slightly different than if you're going to enter a super huge GPP and just say, screw it, I want to hit the nuts on the first try. Hit them in the nuts on the first try. And in that case, you can, fighters like Moises and Ihor would be a little better because look at their ownership. They're pretty low considering their numbers. And even on my value score, I have them pretty high considering their ownership, inside the distance, projection. But in this case, I'm using late swap. So ownership does matter. But what matters more above ownership is their order in the fight card. I've told myself I'm gonna do this, but I'm such a procrastinator and I will get to it. I do want to make a video explaining the different strategies if you want to use late swap, large field GPP, and like cash lineups. I think that'll be super useful because you do have to treat those 3 different things differently because they are different styles of play. This particular style of play right now is for late swap. So those are going to be our locks. So with late swap, there's basically 3 variables, and this is really generalizing it. I'm just trying to gift it in a package, I guess you can say, instead of being so random. We have our locks. So number 1, we have our locks, and our locks, their order in the fight card doesn't really matter because they are our locks and we're counting on them to win. And those have to be high percentage win percentages. The second one are our coin flips, are our fighters that it's almost up to a coin flip whether they're going to win or not. And those fighters, we want it in the beginning of the fight card because if they lose, which could be very possible that they lose, we're going to change our lineup. We're going to utilize late swap and go from volatile lineup, which would be our original, to a less volatile lineup, to a safer. We're going from ceiling to floor. Ceiling meaning their potential points, floor meaning their safer points, meaning we'll look at the inside the distance. That's the determining factor, whether it's going to be a ceiling fight or a floor fight. For example, the Moreno Figueredo fight is a floor fight. We can see that they're going to have good floors because it is a 5-round fight and they're inside the distance. Isn't that great at 100? But compared to the other fighters on this card, it's good, relatively good. What's the other word other than relative? Objectively, it's not good because 100, it's actually pretty good inside the distance odds for them to finish inside the distance, but relatively, it's all we got. It's like that pawn shop meme. This is the best we can do is 100 with this fight card. So going back where we're talking about coin flips, we want our coin flips fights to be earlier in the fight because if somebody loses in our coin flips, which is very possible, we're gonna change it to more of like a cash game lineup. And though these coin flip fights, so our locks are in green, in yellow, Rodriguez, Nunes, and Almeida. Our coin flip fights are in orange, which would be Oliveira, McKinney, Alves, Dalby, Bonfim, and Marcos. And you can see they're early in the fight card. And their win percentages are basically between 40 and 60. That coin flip areas between 40 and 60 is pretty much a coin flip a range, right? We're dealing with ranges here. Think about poker. For all your poker players, we're thinking about ranges, okay? Very similar to poker. If you're really interested in DFS, study poker because a lot of principles in poker carry over to DFS. So we got our locks, we got our coin flips. What's next? Also in this, I don't know why I put them green. These guys are my locks too. Are the main the co-main event, Moreno and Figueroa. I believe those guys, you have to have one of those two guys to be optimal because their pricing is just too good, and I believe the winner, even the loser, it's gonna be a good floor. The loser's gonna have a good floor, but the winner's gonna have a good ceiling. And the pricing, we just need something right here. We need to save money somehow to get these fighters, and that's a good way to save money there. So our third variable is where we're gonna take our shots, and this is where we're gonna pick our shots. Where we're gonna go a little lower on the fight on the salary win percentage odds, and this is where we really look at ownership. This is where we want to get different. We're considering ownership pretty much on all fighters, but this one's the one we really lock in on ownership. We don't want win percentage too bad. Like, I'm not gonna go for Shamil. I don't even know how to say that last name because he's not even relevant. His win percent, he does have 2.8 ownership projection, but he only has 13 win percentage. So that's giving up way too much win percentage for that ownership. So we're looking at more like Mauricio Rua and up, 36% win percentage and up. We're looking more at that. And then, so the second thing we look at is the ownership. I'm looking at less than 20%. When I'm looking for ownership, looking to get leverage on one fighter, I'm looking for like less than 20, less than 15 optimally. If I can get less than 15, that's great. But mostly less than 20 is what I want to get, because going less than 15, you tend to give a little bit of win percentage away. But maybe it's all case by case. So in this case, speaking of cases, Paul Craig is projected to be 11.2%. He's at a 38% win percentage, which isn't too bad. And his inside the distance, it's going to end inside the distance. His individual inside the distance is at 30%. Not that bad, not too shabby. And considering the knowledge of the fight, Paul Craig is a submission artist, and he catches people very strangely. He's such a strange fighter that Johnny, it's a perfect matchup for just super volatility. Johnny Walker's also super volatile. He's also a very strange way of fighting. It's either you get knocks out or you knock somebody out. I can see him possibly dropping Craig. I mean, a lot of people are predicting that he's going to knock Craig out, which is very possible. But also he could just drop him, go down with him, and Craig just land some weird submission. Or Walker also not the most intelligent fighter. So Craig seems to be pretty, I mean, he's a weird style of fighter, but he's pretty, what's that word when you use your brain? Cerebral as far as like the grappling goes. He gets pretty crafty on how he gets you in his little web. So I can see that him doing that sort of cerebral web trapping on the doofus Johnny Walker. No offense to Johnny Walker, I'm sure you could kill me. But yeah, so it doesn't hurt to take a shot on Craig at 11%, because we do have to get different here, right? We are going to have to get different. The thing that sucks about this card is it's predictable on who's going to score pretty high, but also all people know that, because look at Rodriguez. He's at 32% ownership. Nunes is at 31% ownership, and Almeida's at 37% ownership. Moreno's at 41%. Like, we're gonna have to start getting different. You know, like just having those three fighters like super chalk. So again, we're playing medium to small size GPPs. So in that case, ownership doesn't matter too much, because again, the lower the tournament, the less likely that lineups are going to be duplicated. So we don't have to get too different, but we do want to get different because we are playing GPPs and we're going for that number one spot, right? So taking our shots is our third variable, and that's Paul Craig and Mauricio Rua. I picked Mauricio Rua because his percentage is at 15%, great ownership percentage, 36% win percentage, inside the distance, 21%. It is going to finish inside the distance. And Mauricio Rua is just a damn warrior. This is also out of just respect. If you're a fan of the sport, you got to respect Shogun. He's just a freaking warrior, and that warrior, he's one of, and obviously they're all freaking tough, right? All these fighters are tough ass fighters, so you can't just say, oh, he's just being tough is not a good enough attribute in the fight game. But Mauricio Roa, so I'm just gonna call him Shogun because my speech isn't so great right now. Shogun, he's like the old school Dan Henderson, freaking who else is freaking super tough. I can't recall the top of my head right now, but those fighters that like really surprise you. You look at them and you're like, damn, that's a whole nother level of like warrior spirit. So being in front of his crowd, last fight of his career, you can't count him out. You can't. I know Ihor's a younger, hungrier, coming off a loss, so he's gonna want to redeem himself. But I wouldn't count out Shogun. And at 15% ownership, at the price you pay for him at 7,300, where you are gonna have to get, and every DraftKings lineup construction, you have to have an underdog, one or two underdogs that win, because there's no way you're gonna just be able to pick favorites. If you just say, well, I'm just gonna pick all favorites, the salary constructions aren't gonna allow you to do this, especially in this card where you want to pay up and get these monsters, right? So you are gonna have to go a little low, and considering ownership, I'm looking at Shogun and Paul Craig. So with that, let me give you guys a little example of the type of lineup you can construct considering these variables, this way of thinking. So let's go with Rodriguez, right? We'll go with Rodriguez, Robocop, and we'll go with Almeida. Say we want to get Almeida, we want to pay that 9,700 price tag. So Moreno's also our lock. Who else we're looking at? Craig or Shogun. Let's go with Craig, right? We'll go with Craig, Paul Craig. Also, when we're picking our shots, another variable to consider, and which is, I would say, the most important variable. Well, I would say ownership, and these two going hand in hand. The ownership, because if their ownership was too high, there's no point of taking the damn shot. So ownership is probably the number one, actually, because that's the whole point of taking a shot, is we're picking somebody with a super low ownership, is their order in the fight card. Remember, we're using late swap strategy, so the order in the fight card is very important. And in this case, we want our shots to be later in the fight card, because there's no point of having them in the beginning because it's so damn volatile. If say they're later in the fight card, which we want, if something goes wrong earlier, there's no point of having that, because we're no longer playing for that number one spot. We're just trying to min cash after that. If one of our fighters, say one of our coin flip fighters, loses, which is the reason why we want them in the beginning of the fight card, we're going to have to late swap our shots, because there's no point of having them. We're no longer trying to go for that first place, because in order to get that first place, most likely 99% of the times you're going to need 6 winners. There's no point of going for that low percentage shot, that low percentage high reward shot. We just want to play it safe. We want to just cash out. We just want to get triple up our money, double up our money, whatever the construction of the payout structure is. We're just trying to what's that word called? Salvage our lineup. That's what we're trying to go for. That's why we want our shots to be at the end of the fight card. And so considering that, we're looking down here, we don't have too many options. It's really much just Paul Craig and Shogun, which is Paul Craig is the 5th fight and Shogun is the 6th fight. So still less than half, because remember there's 15 fights, which is half than 15, like 7. So at 6 and 5, so we still have more than half the fight card fighting before these guys fight. So those are decent spots. Ideally, we want them like towards like end like 3, 2, 1. But 6 and 5 isn't too bad, considering this is a 15 fight card. If this was like a 10, 11 fight card, that would be a little iffy. But we're not sitting too bad there with that 6 and 5. So Paul Craig, say we'll have Paul Craig. I need to breathe. So where are we at? 7,850 average. So we're looking at these orange guys. We're gonna pick 2 orange fighters, two toss ups. I do like McKinney, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to fit him in there with these with lineups with McKinney. Either we have to get rid of Almeida or go for Shogun. So let's see. This is what I'm talking about. So if we go McKinney, right, that leaves us at 7,200. That we can't. We're not going to the red. Damn it, we are not going to that damn red. That's where I put my foot down. So maybe go to Shogun instead of Craig. Will that free us up enough money to go up to? No, not even that. What's the cheapest we can go to? The cheapest we can go to is Marcos at 7,600. So using this strategy, it's not possible to go to McKinney and Almeida. So we could go Craig. We would have to go from Almeida to Nunes. And then that will free up. No, damn. So it's really tough to get to McKinney in this case. We'd have to go Nunes and Shogun. This would give us the ability to go to Marcos, which is the first fight on the fight card. That's an example right there. If you want McKinney, right? If you're saying, and in this case, you want Almeida's going to win the damn fight, but you just want him to win it with at the 2-minute mark instead of the 1-minute mark, right? You don't want him to get that 60 second a bonus where they score usually over like 120, which would make him optimal. That's what he's banking on. He's gonna have to end him in the first, unless he knocks him down like a million times. He's gonna have to end him within the first minute, and that's what you're banking on, him not ending him in the first minute. If you're gonna go away from him, but if you want to go for Almeida, you're gonna have to get away from McKinney. You have to get away from McKinney. Maybe you could go still Paul Craig. If you still want a piece of that McKinney action, you maybe play his opponent, Bonfim. And then you go... is Dalby one of our guys? Yeah, Dalby's at 13. Or you go Marcos. I don't like Dalby because when the Dalby fight locks, the Bonfim fight's also going to lock. I do not like that because that means that leaves us with less flexibility. So we could go probably we go Bonfim and Marcos. Right, gives us we get a little bit of cushion there to late swap in case Marcos loses. So that's an example right there using late swap. So finally, this is the last thing. I'll try to make it short because I know this is dragging on and I'm not speaking well because I'm talking damn too much. Is say Marcos loses, right? Say shit, Marcos loses, gets freaking, he gets crushed, gets slaughtered, gets skeeted. All right, now we're gonna switch it up. I still do want to keep Moreno because I believe that's a good floor. Now we're looking for floors. We're looking for floors and win percentage, and it's not as far as floors, safe low variance fights, not very good. We could do Luan Lucerda. Not expect him to win, but do expect him to go all 5 rounds and give us like a 30-40 piece fight. That's one option. We go Lucerda. We go down here and then just fill it up with top dogs, high scores. Rodriguez, we know he's gonna score high. 9,000. So Moises and Burns could do something like that. It's just monsters. We know these guys are gonna score high. Moises, Burns, and Rodriguez, and then Lacerda. We don't expect him to win, but we do expect him to hang in there and give us maybe 30, maybe 40 points. But more realistically, like 30. And you just min cash with that lineup. We can do that, or if we don't want to do that, we can just go, just stick in this range, these coin toss range, and just hope that every damn coin toss is on your side. you could do that as well with 8,600. We can start at. We could go main event. I would do main event. Maybe go to Teixeira to save a little bit of money. Um, that gives us 886, and then maybe Portera, Moises, Walker. Walker's probably maybe McKinney. You like McKinney, and this will allow us to go up to maybe Stamen or Rodriguez. You want that high score, and boom, right there. You're going. In that case, you're going more for win percentage. In that case, it depends. How do you want to play it? Do you want to go for the win percentage, or do you want to go for that punt, that low variance punt, and just those beasts that are up there? It depends on you. You could construct multiple lineups like this, which what I'm gonna be doing. I'm not gonna just construct one. I'm gonna be constructing multiple lineups with this mold, and then just to hedge my bets. If something goes wrong, I could do those two different strategies. Go with the Lacerda punt, and as much as it hurts me to say it, going down to the dump and going for Lacerda for that low inside the distance odds, and going for the animals on the top, or just going in the middle, just to hedge the bets. I'm gonna cut it right there. I've been talking way damn too much. Enjoy the fights tomorrow. It's gonna be super exciting. I'm super excited for this. The fucking back in Brazil. Just look at the damn numbers. This is what gets me off. We're looking at the numbers. That look at that. Everybody's projected to finish into the distance, and that's gonna be. I'm gonna be super. See when it's funny the way you watch fights. When I'm sober, I like watching like the artistry and this and that about it. But when I'm pounding, I just want to see some blood. So this is gonna be a fight where bears are gonna be pounded. So enjoy the fights, and I'll see you guys next time.